right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Member Cho. Member Fain.
Here.
Member Lindsay. Here. Member Oji.
Here.
Member Rios. Member Trinkle.
Here.
And Chair Ajwang.
Yeah. Go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. So the City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lijan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. I'll also be reading the commission purpose. The charge of this commission is to advise the City Council on the citywide priorities of equity, diversity, accountability, and inclusivity to address the broad spectrum of intersectional issues across race and social equity within the City of Albany. The RISE Commission shall also seek to develop positive relations through the Commission's regular monthly meetings as a space to facilitate greater respect and understanding between people, offering opportunities for cultural exchange and education, and promote tolerance and mutual respect between all members of the community. Okay. Moving to approval of the minutes from December 5th. Can I get a motion?
I couldn't find it, so I didn't read it, so I feel like I can make a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Member Cho.
Yes.
Member Fain.
Yes.
Member Lindsay.
Yes.
Member Oji.
Yes.
Member Trinkle.
Yes.
And Chair Ajwang.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment.
Do you have one?
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. Student commissioner, welcome. So, regarding the land acknowledgement statement, I've made a positive suggestion before, I just haven't seen anybody take action. So it's a land acknowledgement statement that's read for about a minute before these meetings. But where is it displayed for the public to see? You know, I walk in the city hall in the lobby, I don't see those words anywhere up on the wall, on the plaque. I'm looking in the chambers right now where y'all are sitting. I see the city seal behind the chair, but I don't see that statement on the wall anywhere. And I'm just wondering why it's not transparent. I'm wondering why it's so hidden. I'm wondering why the city hasn't taken steps to make it visible for all to see. You know, transparency is a real big deal. It's a real big thing for everybody these days. So why is this statement not transparent? So those are my questions. I don't know if there's a good answer. I don't know if there is an answer. Maybe it's just been overlooked. but I think it would be great. I think it would be respectful to the Olonis if we could at least put it up on a plaque, if we could at least display our commitment on the wall somewhere in City Hall or these chambers. So I just can't wait till it happens. So please, please, please do what you can for a future agenda item discussion. Let's get that plaque made. Thank you.
No other public commenters.
Okay, thank you, Jeremiah. Quick question, Jonathan. What relevant committee would be able to actually action that in terms of, or like even begin to consider putting a plaque somewhere? Would that be like the Arts Committee or?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I imagine Arts Committee, Parks Recreation, Open Spaces. It may be relevant to the RISE Commission, I'm not sure. I'd have to check and get back to you.
Thank you, that would be great, because I do remember Jeremiah bringing this up previously. Member Lindsay?
I mean, one thing we can do with a public comment is refer an item to staff, for staff to follow up on it. So we could do that. And that would mean that at least maybe there'd be some staff talking about it among themselves, and they might talk to Jeremiah about it, that sort of thing. So as chair, you can suggest something. Any of us could, but it's often the chair can refer something to staff, refer an item to staff.
Yeah.
To follow up on.
Yeah. So it sounds like Jonathan is going to look into that. Thank you. And moving on, unless there are no further public comment? Okay, so moving on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Staff?
Yeah, I do have a staff announcement, if no one has an announcement. So just an update on the equity survey. We did meet with the Justice Collective last month. They're currently in the process of developing draft survey questions based on feedback received from interviews conducted with management staff from the city, the Albany Unified School District, and the RISE Commission Equity Survey Subcommission. The consultant will be doing additional outreach and engaging with key community groups in conjunction with the launch of the survey in the near future. And then for kind of a loose timeline, so from present to March, they'll be interviewing potential key community stakeholders. They'll be finalizing the survey and then launching and closing the survey. April to June, the survey interview data will be analyzed. There'll be reporting of early key findings to city staff and the RISE Commission Equity Survey Subcommittee, and then a presentation of key findings to the RISE Commission. And then June, July, of course, will be the presentation of key findings and a final report to City Council.
Member Lindsay?
So they're currently developing questions. In February and March, they're going to do the actual survey.
That's right.
April, June, analyze, June and July. So it's April maybe through halfway, April, May, part of June or something. And then they'll report out in June and July to this commission and to the council.
To the subcommittee
Okay.
first, and then the commission, and then to council.
Okay. So under announcements, we're not really supposed to discuss stuff, and we can discuss it later, unless somebody has a clarifying question like I had.
I have a question. So they are not currently done with the survey, but they will be soon, and then they'll be sending it out for like a month. So only like 1 month is the actual surveying period.
That's about right, tentatively. They're currently finalizing the questions.
Okay.
And they're also speaking with community groups.
Thank you for that announcement. Okay. Moving on to presentations, but we don't have anything planned for this meeting. So we can skip on over to the discussion and possible action on matters related to the following items, which are next steps, housing element implementation.
Yes, hello, good evening. Thanks for having me here tonight. I am Leslie Mendez, and I am the planning manager for the City of Albany. And I was here in December giving an overview of our housing element implementation phases, and some of you weren't there, so I'll just do a little background. The city, all cities in all jurisdictions in California are required to do a housing element, and it is on an 8-year cycle. Our 6th cycle, we adopted it in spring of last year. All housing elements do need to be certified by the HCD, which is Housing Community Development Department. And that was certified in, I believe it's July or August. Apologies, I don't have the dates. Anyway, so now we're moving forward with our housing implementation. The housing element includes several programs that we have committed to moving forward. And attached, in case you didn't see it, we have divided those programs into priorities of top 3 phasing. And the phasing was chosen predominantly based on synergies, what goes together, as well as what we heard from the public during the housing element outreach period, as well as HCD in itself highlighted certain things that they marked that we do need to follow up on. So based on that, our phase 1 implementation is really focused on tenant protections and rent review. And that includes rent review, and the portions of tenant protections that we're moving forward with are just cause for eviction, non-discrimination and anti-harassment, rent stabilization, and access to legal counsel. And when I say these, some of the program elements are actually to study the feasibility for the City of Albany and what that would look like. It's not necessarily that we are moving forward to try to get this going. And we are having a study session that we have settled on March 27th, which is a Wednesday. It's the 4th Wednesday of the month. And based on the expertise and just the perspective of this commission, we would like to have a joint study session with the members of the RISE Commission as well as members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So a lot of the work of the housing element is kind of an intersection between your 2 commissions, so we want to get you together. As well as a few members of the public we'd like to invite kind of on the dais. It is going to be a study session, and we'll start going through the different programs and different options of what these programs could look like for the City of Albany. If this study session goes well, we may consider transforming it into something a little more formal that would meet on a regular basis to review elements of the portions of the housing element as we move forward. But for this point, it is just a study session that we are going to have on March 27th. So I am here tonight soliciting volunteers to participate. And again, this commitment is for the 27th, but if it, like I say, if it is successful, it may morph into something longer commitment. And if that were to happen, the thought currently is that would be held on any meetings would be held on either the 2nd or 4th Wednesday of the month, which is a time where the Planning and Zoning Commission is reserved. Therefore, that any members of the Planning and Zoning Commission would have 2 meetings in a month potentially, and not 3. So with that, I am hoping one or more of you tonight would be interested in this. And if you can.
Clarifying question?
Member Lindsay, go ahead.
Yeah, couple of clarifying questions. That's a Tuesday, right?
No, it's a Wednesday,
Wednesday, March 27th? Oh, that's because I'm looking at February. All right. So that, I see. So this might be the first of several Wednesdays. Right, okay.
Correct.
And what time is it scheduled for?
It would be at 7 p.m., so same
Okay.
time as this meeting. We have the room reserved, so I'm going to take advantage of that.
Okay. That's, I just wanted to check on those 2 things.
Thank you.
Is anybody interested?
I'm interested. I just can't participate. I have to work Wednesday nights, and if I'm not working, I'm watching my kid.
Yeah, okay. Do you realize it's an imposition? So.
Yeah, I am also interested, but can I confirm?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was letting John know that if it were me, sometimes it doesn't really register until the next day. I'm like, maybe I would want to do that. So I do, first of all, I want to say thank you for considering it seriously, because it would be nice to have members of this commission participate, and I would rather, obviously things come up, but I'm glad you're taking it seriously.
I had a question. So it's going to be, the public can see it?
Yes, I believe so. I think
I can watch
it's
it.
going to be a study session, so we do want participation from members of the public as much as we can. So I think I'm sort of making this up as we go along, but I think we'll get a broader range of participation if we have that virtual participation option. So yes, I'm going to make that decision. Yes,
Awesome. I'll watch it.
it'll be hybrid.
Oh.
Is council going to be there? Is it a Brown Act?
We are not inviting, it is going to be a Brown Act meeting because we are going to have members of the commissions. We will just say that members, we won't specify the number of members, but just to cover our basis. At this point, if council members come, that's a very good question. The thought wasn't necessarily to exclude them, but the thought was for it to be a study session to try to start gathering input from the community on the various issues to put in a more digestible form to present to council. So I don't think we will, that's not a definitive no that they wouldn't be participating. Hopefully they will be watching, but I'm not sure we'd be noticing for council members.
Right. I mean, it's a Brown Act meeting, so
Exactly.
you're fine either way. But are either of you interested?
Yes, I'd be interested. May we have like your contact information like after?
Yes, definitely. And of course, I didn't bring it, but I can run back to my office and get my cards, and I'll give it to each of you. And again, no pressure. I really highly encourage you to participate, taking into account all the, I know this is your volunteer time and you all are very busy folks with a lot going on. So yes, I will give it and you can contact me later, and that would be great. And if you have any further questions about it, we're formulating it as we go along. Many jurisdictions have housing commissions that would do this type of work. The City of Albany does not, hence I think, like I say, the expertise of both this commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission will be real nice pillars to start moving this work forward.
Yeah. Jonathan, is there a way to include that in the email that goes out to the other commission members in case they want to join, the ones who are not here today?
I'll send an email with the contact information, for sure that. Regarding information about the meeting itself to Rios, I'd have to check about that. I don't know that it would be an issue though.
Okay. Thank you.
And just one more thing, if you did download this, this is a hyperlink to our housing element. So it is Chapter 6 that has all the policies and programs that we have committed to. So even if you just look at the highlights, if you have any desire to do a deep dive, whether you volunteer or not, that would be great.
Yeah. Member Lindsay?
I have a comment, which is I think I'm really happy to see this stuff. The word on the street is that the rent review program has not been exactly a resounding success. It was a nice attempt, but that's the word on the street anyway. But having at least the rent stabilization is more controversial, but the first, second, and third ones, just cause for eviction is a no-brainer. Non-discrimination and anti-harassment is a no-brainer, and access to legal counsel, especially for tenants, but even for housing providers, which I guess is the correct term for landlords, I think generally speaking, it's for both in most cities. So those ones seem like no-brainers. The rent stabilization is trickier. But so I sure hope they happen. I probably can't come that night, but if it, oh, I'm so sorry. This needs to be turned off. But if I can, I will.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll hear from, just in our brief outreach that we did to the various groups prior to kind of making these phases, we got pretty disparate feedback on each and every one of those items. So it will be an interesting meeting for sure. So it'll be.
You mean when you talk to the housing providers and the tenants?
Exactly.
You got different answers? What a shock.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, so yes, there are some that seem like no-brainers, but often the devil's in the details and what does it entail, and that's where some of the robust discussion will ensue. So, looking forward to it. Okay. Would it be disruptive if I got the cards? Okay, great. He'll email you, and thank you so much for taking the time and having me here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to 6-2 subcommittee.
I'm sorry, you got one public comment.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you should come back. My bad.
Sorry, what?
Sure, I'll let you get situated.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi, my name is Estrella Seinberg, and I'm a fellow commissioner on the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission. Thank you for your service, fellow commissioners. And I joined 5 minutes late, and it seemed like public comment was already over. So this is going to be a combination of a general comment and or non-agendized and agendized. But I just wanted to introduce myself. Equity is so embedded in every topic in commission's focus that I just wanted to kind of make myself available to connect with this commission and also raise the connection between equity, parks, recreation, and open space, and on this topic, actually housing. So something that I think is important for us to be aware of is green gentrification. And, it's a phenomenon due to how the market responds to greening, right? Park improvements, open space improvements. And at the same time, everyone deserves equitable access to quality parks, recreation, and open space. And so with that said, I think if there's ways in which the housing efforts and initiatives can consider how to team up or incorporate parks, recreation, and open space and anti-displacement efforts. I have a lot of toolkits on that. I wrote my master's thesis on this, and also I think we can look just right in our backyard to the the project right on Pier Street that's being built together, right? The park and the bike lane, and it's a completely affordable housing building. So that is just a model, and of housing in place, greening in place. And so with that said, I think we've got a great example right in our backyard, and I hope we can continue to work in that greening and housing kind of dualistic manner. So thank you for listening, and I just hope we can continue, or we can work together.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment, Estrella.
No other commenters.
Okay, moving on to subcommittee updates. And starting with the City Equity Statement Subcommittee. Member Cho, Member Rios.
So far we have a document, and we've just been doing a lot of research on how to draft the equity statement, and well, yeah, we've just been doing a lot of research on it, looking at other cities' equity statements, other organizations, and for now we're just gathering information. We were supposed to meet last weekend to talk about drafting like the actual statement, but then I'm pretty sure she's out of town right now, so we weren't able to do that, but I'm planning on sending a following email to her soon, and hopefully we can draft up something.
Thank you. Moving on to the Citywide Racial Equity Survey Subcommittee. Member Lindsay, Member Trinkle. Any updates?
There's really not much. When we met with staff and also with the survey company, we had a rough schedule, and that was the main thing we got, plus they just asked us a bunch of questions, which we answered as best we could. What we just got from Jonathan was more detailed, which is great, but it's pretty much the same process, pretty much the same timeline, just more detailed. So that's good to know. When we did talk, Charlotte and I, we said we do want to, just connect with the company once a month or something like that, just to kind of check in and see if there's any questions and like that. Does that sound about right, Charlotte?
Yeah, just like following up and stuff.
Say again?
Oh yeah, just like meeting with them once a month, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update. And then the Racial Equity Office / Officer Subcommittee. We completed a draft for the work plan item, which was attached to the agenda. Is it possible to put that up on the screen? Okay, awesome. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to maybe glance at it, but we can also go over it in depth. That was the hope. My hope was we'd be able to review it and kind of go through the steps of approving it. Jonathan, is that correct? Do we need to approve it before it moves over into into council?
That's right.
Okay, great. So yes, I just wanted to go over, because the last meeting we kind of talked about where we would want it to land and the things we would want to see in the in this work plan item. And so I filled that out as best as I could. I included links to relevant articles and pointing to data that would be useful in terms of making the case to council. So I think the best way to do it is just to should we read through it?
Well, it is item 6.3.
What?
It's item 6.3 on the agenda. It's listed as a subcommittee update, but it's also a specific item.
So I'll just say that we drafted this work plan item, and we can review it in depth in the next agenda item. But that is essentially my update, is that we would I would like to go over that with the commission. And then the read-along program subcommittee, do you want to?
Yeah, I can talk about that. Just a few days after our last meeting, December 7th, I met with Paul, the librarian who mainly runs the Albany Reads program. And I met with him and we talked about our subcommittee's idea of a read-along program. And, he mainly wanted us to figure out what our target audience is, what we wanted for the library, and how we would run this program. And so he asked us to write a proposal with specific details about our program. So we created a proposal that we'll send to him specifically. And he also reached out to us just the other day letting us know that the library is considering a family story time on alternate Saturdays with parents and young children. He's saying that once a month there could be plans around diversity, equity, and inclusion themes. And so he said our commission can get involved by researching and suggesting suitable picture books for consideration as a part of a social justice themed story time, as well as help promote story times through outreach and flyer distribution through the high school. So the high school students would work as like volunteers during this program, and also plan and lead a craft related to the theme done after the story time for the children. So we already have a draft recommendation memo, which we made a while ago, but we'd update it with new pieces of literature for this book discussion group. And that's all.
There we go. Thank you, Member Fain.
Question?
Yes, Member Lindsay.
So this is good, but that doesn't sound like what you were originally talking about. It sounded like originally you were talking about something for adults.
Yes, so the plan is to kind of start at within the programs they already have going, and then we can work within the systems they have. The main concern, and I think this is what Paul had alluded to, I might be wrong, but in terms of trying to figure out like what works best for what age groups is something that still remains a question. So my thought process was that I've been to the story times for children, and I know that people show up to that, mainly because those are usually facilitated by like caregivers who are home with their children anyway. So I've been the parent going to those things, but I don't know the viability of like, older children who have school schedules and extracurricular activities, and then also adults who have their own goings on in their life. So I thought that it might be useful to start with the story times, and we sort of agreed on that kind of and talked to, and then also, presented it to him, and he kind of said, let's start with that, and then we'll move up to the older age groups as the program progresses. So that's kind of that's how we ended up where we're at.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine by me. You guys do whatever you. I wasn't criticizing. I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. I mainly, just trying to give the thought process behind that, because it was something that we talked about at length. So, are there any more questions on the read-along program? Okay. Then we can move on to 6-3, which is the Racial Equity Officer work plan item. Okay. Do you mind throwing that up again? Thank you. Okay. I think it might be useful to just go through and read what has been written, and we can talk about it if that's, or if anybody has a better suggestion, I'm happy to go with that.
It might be a good idea, because I doubt, almost never has everybody on a commission read something like this. It's just people just don't get to it, or they didn't notice it, or something like that. And people in the public almost for sure haven't seen it. So it probably makes sense to read it. Maybe we could take turns, I don't know, just so that people don't get bored. I really don't know. Okay. I did read it. I thought it was great for what it's worth.
Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the first paragraph. Whoever wants to go second, go for it. But the first paragraph is relatively unchanged. It's what we drafted together as a team. So that reads that the council hire an equity officer who will be intimately aware of the needs of Albany residents from an equity perspective in order to accelerate the benefits of the diversity, equity, and inclusion goals set forth by the City Council in the Equity Impact Plan. And there, the hyperlink is to the Equity Impact Plan on the website.
We're just going clockwise or something? Or?
So we can start there.
Okay,
Let's
good.
go. Okay.
We advise the City of Albany budget and plan for hiring several more equity specialists to create a department or team. This would support the initial equity officer and create better outcomes for success. These additional hires should be under consideration for the near future, as data shows that one equity officer for an entire organization, company, or town leads to high attrition. Is that what? Okay. Attrition rates for that sole officer due to lack of support and unreasonable deliverables that one person alone cannot achieve.
Thank you. So just for the recommendation part, does everybody feel good about that specific portion, or does anybody have any questions? The second paragraph was included because there is data that shows that, you know, generally people will hire in a D&I officer and then they put everything on that one person and they kind of are not able to meet those expectations because they're unreasonable. So I wanted to include that just as not something that might happen immediately, but something to be considered as this is built out. Member Lindsay?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly, we need that. I'll be surprised if council does that. But it's initially, just like you said, but hopefully they could, you know, keep it open. And then when it is just one person at first, if that does happen, you know, then they need to have reasonable expectations and give that person support so they don't quit in frustration and discouragement. I had read the same thing. I don't know what your sources are. There's some sources there, but I'd read the same thing, and it's just kind of, you can just see it happening. You could just almost predict it, that the person is kind of tokenized and said, okay, now you, black person, you go solve everything in the city. We wash our hands of it. And I could just see that as being not good. I don't think anybody would like to be in that position. You know? So, yeah, if they don't hire a second person at first, I really hope they do hire one at least. But if they don't hire a second person at first, I think we need to somehow make sure that that person is included and is part of the team and is getting support, and the goals are reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Definitely. Thank you, Member Lindsay. Anybody? Okay, awesome. Moving on to the background.
In recent years, Albany's approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion has often been reactive, partly due to a lack of representation of minoritized communities in governance. This has led to an underrepresentation of minority voices in the Albany community. Consequently, the perspectives of individuals from minoritized communities have not been adequately addressed in the city policies pertaining to housing, educational resources, public transportation, healthcare access, employment opportunities, law enforcement practices, social services, etc. All these factors make Albany an inhospitable environment for current residents who fall into these minoritized communities. Furthermore, it deters individuals who fall into these impacted groups from moving to Albany.
The establishment of an equity officer position is a crucial step toward ensuring these diverse voices are included in Albany's governance, leading to more equitable and inclusive decision-making. After all, there is extensive research which shows that diversity within communities and organizations leads to better outcomes for everyone involved, and there's several footnotes there. That's the end of that section, I think.
Yeah. Is there anything that anyone would like to add to that specific section, or take out, or expound upon?
Amen. You guys said it really, really well. I don't know if somebody else has something else, but I thought it was pretty well said.
Yes, it's very well said.
Okay, then moving on to discussion/analysis, which, to be quite honest, is a recapitulation of all of what was said previously, because, I mean, there's some additional stuff, but the pros and cons, I feel like is already covered, but then you just have to say it differently. Go for it.
All right. Says, please see below a detailed pros and cons list discussing the need for an equity officer. Pros, improve representation and equity. An equity officer would ensure that voices from minoritized communities are heard and considered in city decision-making. This would promote policies that are more reflective of the community's diverse needs. Enhance community trust. Having a representative who understands and advocates for underrepresented groups can improve trust between the community and the city government. Better policy outcomes. Diverse perspectives lead to more innovative and effective solutions. An equity officer can introduce new viewpoints and approaches to address long-standing issues within the community, leading to better policy outcomes. Economic benefits. Diverse leadership has been linked to improved financial performance. Bringing diverse perspectives into city management could lead to more effective economic strategies and programs. Social cohesion. An equity officer can help in fostering a more inclusive community, enhancing social cohesion, and reducing societal tensions.
Okay. Cons, budgetary restraint. Hiring an equity officer and potentially building a team around them would require a financial commitment, which might strain the city's budget. Risk of tokenism. If not supported by broader systemic changes, there is a risk that the position could be perceived as a token gesture rather than a substantive change. Implementation challenges. Integrating a new rule into the existing government structure might present operational challenges, including defining the scope and authority of the position. Potential resistance. There might be a resistance or skepticism from parts of the community or city staff, especially if there is a lack of understanding about the role's importance. Measurement of success. Determining the effectiveness of the role could be challenging, as changes in equity and inclusivity can be difficult to measure quantitatively.
Am I reading the last part too?
Sure. In conclusion, while there are challenges to consider, the benefits of hiring an equity officer in Albany, particularly in terms of improved policy representation, community trust, and better outcomes, present a strong case for such a position. The role could serve as a crucial step towards addressing the current reactive approach to diversity and ensuring that all community members, especially those who are currently underrepresented, have a voice in shaping the city's future.
Thank you so much, Member Trenko. I appreciate it. Any comments?
Very nice.
Thank you. Anything anybody would like to add, or?
I mean, I think it's like beautifully worded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay, then I'll move on to the social equity and inclusivity considerations. I didn't include anything there. Is that okay, Jonathan? Because I was like, this whole thing is a social equity and inclusivity consideration.
I mean, there's not exactly requirements.
Okay,
so,
cool. Okay. And then another question I had for the City Council Strategic Plan initiatives, I literally just took what was on the website and put it here. Does this need to be expounded upon, or?
No, that pretty much matches a standard staff report.
Okay.
You're just listing them out.
I actually was going to suggest that we actually say what the goal is on this. So goal 2 is promote. I went and looked. I was like, wait, what's goal 2? It has some of the sub-items in it, but it doesn't have the title of what goal 2 is and goal 4.
I get what you're saying. Okay,
So
got it.
goal 2 is promote housing availability and quality. Goal 4 is encourage community connectivity through DEI. You know? Which is like really, it feels to me like this is primarily about goal 4. I agree, goal 2 is effective.
Yes, so I agree with you on that. I added goal 2 just as like, if anybody wants to take it off, it's fine. But yes, it is primarily goal 4. Do you mind saying what goal 4 is again?
It's encourage unity, connectivity through I just said DEI, but it says through diversity, equity, and inclusivity.
Okay. Thank you.
And I also thought it might be useful to, under City Council strategic plan initiatives, maybe to mention equity impact plan that the city.
You again?
So it's the equity impact plan that the city has adopted. It's actually referred to in there. But
Yeah.
I thought it
To
could
do it
also-
again.
Just to fit it under City Council strategic plan initiatives, maybe. It's not really.
So you said like the initiative would fulfill the following city council strategic plan initiatives
Well,
outlined
two
in
and
the.
goal four, but also, I would say a third bullet point might be
Oh,
the equity impact plan.
Like to reference it?
Yeah. Just,
is that
It's in the recommendation at the very beginning.
all right, let's not worry about it, because it's, it's not really, I don't know if it's part of the strategic plan, but it is adopted by the city council.
yeah?
Well, okay. So yeah, why don't we just, it's already referenced above, let's not worry about it.
Yeah, this is a question for staff. In terms of like this specific section is referencing the city council strategic plan initiatives, which is not related to the equity impact plan. Am I getting that right?
Generally, it looks just like this, where it's just
Okay.
goal and then sometimes not even bullet points. So it's usually pretty concise.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good then. Financial considerations. So another question for staff. So I wrote this not really with like context regarding what what the like budget is or anything like that. I really just pulled data from California, like just the census data of California and like what people are being paid for this specific role. But I wanted to kind of check and see where we're at on that, or like what has this role ever existed before in like this context?
So I'm 100% not the qualified person to answer either of these questions. I do know that in December they had a budgetary review. We are running at a deficit right now by at least $1 million, I believe. I would recommend looking at that agenda. I can possibly email it to you. So it gives you kind of a budget sense of where the city's at right now. As for whether or not we've had this role before in the city, I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Member Lindsay.
So I think if you looked at the whole state, these numbers look high to me. But if you can imagine somebody being in this position in LA or San Diego or Sacramento or Oakland, these numbers might be, reasonable. Albany is a really super small city with a relatively small budget relative to cities in general, and tends to hire younger up-and-comers at lower salaries. And then after a while, the young folk, move on to some, bigger city. And has had pretty good results with from that approach. So it seems to me that they may be able, that I would assume that Albany, because of its size, would cost less, but but a comment could be put in here, something like, this is for the entire state of California, not small cities or something like that. Albany constantly, the council is always asking, what do other small cities do? It's always. They always want to know what other small cities do,
Yeah, okay, so I definitely thought about that as I was putting this data down, because even like looking at the numbers, it does seem like skewed towards kind of metropolitan cities, as it relates to like maybe even people who work in D&I in tech spaces, which I feel like that's what is skewing the numbers to like higher ranges. but I wasn't really able to find, because I tried looking for small cities in California and then seeing if they ever had a job posting and like made public what they were trying to pay for that position. I wasn't able to find that data. And that's why I included, I mean, it does say like for a director in California, which is vague, but you know. Yeah. And I did include the note in the bottom where it's like, this is just the data I found, right? It's not, I understand that the city's budget is what's gonna determine the pay scale for this position. So from my perspective, I'm like, is that enough? Or should I amend this to show different salary ranges? But I guess the issue is that I don't really know where I would begin to like put in even like the specific, like the median salary range or whatever as it relates to small.
Yeah.
What would the sample size be? Would I pull from
Very
like,
small.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go
I
ahead.
thought, I'm not sure what the number should be, but I really do think it should be a competitive number, because the whole role is kind of for this committee. So you want someone to want to do it. And so you don't want to pay the minority a low rate. It just doesn't make it very attractive. So I think whatever, I mean, if we're already at a deficit as a city, then I'm like, how are we going to have the role? But provided it's possible, I think it should be like, no, we want this, we want you, so we are going to pay you a good amount of money to do this. Like, it's not just a throwaway thing. Now we have our token person.
I agree. All of the above.
I agree too. It's got to be some kind of decent rate, but $286,000 or the median $226,000 might be more than competitive. But you know, normally they would want you to go to the council meeting and talk to them about this, you know, when it comes up on the agenda. And at that point, you could just talk about the financial, you know, the difficulty of finding the data and, you know, pay a competitive rate and, you know, these are best, you know, the best data you could find, but includes corporate and large cities and like that. You know, you could qualify it at that point. I would like, unless we could somehow amend it tonight, I wouldn't want to send it back to you for more study because that's going to slow this down another month. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great, you know, and we could add qualifying language now, or you could just do it in the meeting, you know.
I mean, I guess how does everybody feel? Because my perspective is just that, like, this is just a rubric. And I kind of have the asterisks included there with the last line, saying that this is not what we truly expect. We understand their budgetary constraints. So to me, it feels like I could just leave it as it is and do the explaining in the meeting so that we can actually get it passed and moved on to council as soon as possible, so that they could actually consider the proposal. Mm-hmm. Okay. Jonathan, at this point, would we be looking for a motion, or because we've read through it, or do you mind helping with like next steps?
Sure. So it sounds like right now you're kind of, you can make a motion to approve this memorandum as is. You can approve it with kind of what Jim was talking about with caveats. So we approve this memorandum with changes to X, Y, and Z, mm-hmm. And then you'll go off and change the memorandum and be able to present to council.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wait for the motion.
I mean, my fear is that the last thing is going to scare the council, especially in a budget deficit year. So I do think that another sentence or two might be handy in there just to kind of qualify it a little more. But we can authorize a subcommittee to do that.
Can we amend it now?
Or we could amend it now with another sentence. Just because I don't want them to look at that and go, screw this, and, just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the budget that, we're, what, -$1 million? But we also went up about, let's see, 700,000 for the police. So, do they need that much money? Albany's pretty safe. Maybe that's a different conversation for a different time, but I'm just saying, there has to be some money. Because of all of the budgets, they got quite a bit more for such a safe city.
Yeah, the other thing is that even for a small city, the budget is much higher than people realize. I don't know, John, do you know what the size, or do you have it, like what the overall size of the budget is?
I just looked up.
No, not just for the police, but for the entire budget.
Yeah, it's everything. I don't know how to read it, but
Oh.
it says general government, police, fire, public works, recreation. It says what everyone's budget is, and it says revenues over, it says all that stuff. It says fiscal year 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023, the current one, first quarter, year-to-date totals. This is all that.
Right, do you know what the budget is for this year? Can you find that relatively quickly?
I'm sorry, no.
My guess is it's something in the range of 20 million, that's a guess.
Okay.
Okay, so, and it might be 30. And so Albany is a small city, and Albany does have a deficit, but even a small city has like more money than people realize. But that's a political case to be made to the council, with policies about, so this would be one salary, right? It would be one salary, and, generally speaking, though, in a deficit year, they're not usually going to be interested in new programs that cost money because they're feeling a lot of stress. If you cut from anywhere, people are going to scream at you. You can see that in the state of California, a deficit year, they're not approving things that cost money. But if we send this to them and make a strong case, and if the community talks to people and makes a strong case, community members, and maybe by some miracle it would happen in this next one, but then it could certainly happen in the one after that, when they're no longer in a deficit. But that's all a political case. Our job is to advise council, and we're advising council, So, I mean, if, for another sentence, you're a better writer than I am. What can we say here to, just to indicate that these numbers, I was thinking something along the lines of saying that these numbers include large cities, they include corporations, these salary ranges are, may not, apply to, or something like that, the city of Albany. I mean, but you're a way better wordsmith than I am, so.
Not on the spot. Okay, so in the please note section, do you mean like in that section to add it?
I meant actually even right above, before they see the numbers.
Okay.
If they're, just a, kind of a caveat, please note at the top.
Okay, so should we just move this please note that's here at the bottom, move it up, and then include a sentence that would be, you know, slotted in before the is reflective of data pulled from
Cities of all sizes, would that be agreeable? Does that work?
Yeah.
Would be to approve this as a recommendation to send to council. advisory bodies make recommendations and send it to council, right? That's what we do.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Member Cho?
Yes.
Member Fain?
Yes.
Member Lindsay?
Yes.
Member Oji?
Yes.
Member Tranquil?
Yes.
And Chair Ajwang?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Nice.
So now it goes to city council and they get to decide?
Yep.
It doesn't sound very positive.
So it's the way all advisory commissions pretty much throughout the whole country work.
Yeah.
So you send your recommendation on. So you have to keep. It's not enough to just send it. There's work to be done afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah.
Moving on to 6-4, election of chair and vice chair. So, generally, how is this conducted?
Just like the first time. So you're gonna, somebody's going to, the word escapes me.
Make a motion.
Yeah, you'll make a motion to elect so-and-so for chair, and then we'll take a roll call vote.
You could also do it you could do chair and vice chair at once, or you could do them one at a time, and we can talk about it first before there's a motion.
I was going to say, can we discuss first? Because obviously don't want to call anybody out who doesn't want to be called out. Is anybody interested in either of those positions?
What do they mean again? What do they mean again?
Do you want to elaborate?
So the chair is what Akinyi's been doing.
Yeah, I thought that's what she's been doing.
Right. So every year annually, you guys will elect a new chair and a vice chair.
But other commissions just keep the same chair.
Yeah.
So you can do it either way. And we're brand new, so we don't have a tradition.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured. I was like, wait, she's right there. What are we voting for?
Well, I mean, I would say that I think Akinyi is doing a good job. I think we have a new commission, and we sort of, we're figuring stuff out as we go along to some degree, and I think it would be beneficial to keep Akinyi for another year at least. But it is good to have more than one person, because sometimes people have to drop off or they move or God knows what. And it's nice to have somebody else who can kind of step in. So the vice chair can be more important than people realize, especially if they're included in making the agenda, and especially when if something happens and the chair cannot continue.
I forget. Are you the vice chair? Yes.
I mean, I agree. I like her current chair. Yes.
I was going to say, sorry, go ahead, finish.
So if you would continue being the chair, I would like you to be the chair.
So I was actually hoping somebody else would want to be chair.
You're too fast for you.
So if anybody is interested, please step forward. I do think that it might be beneficial to just have people cycle through and get a feel for it, because I do plan on still being on the committee. I just think that it might be nice to have somebody else do the role.
I've chaired many, many commissions, and right now I'm chairing the Alameda County Elections Commission. But I also think it's ridiculous for a white man to be chairing this particular commission. So for both of those reasons.
Agreed.
Yeah. So for both of those reasons, I'm out, you know.
I would be vice chair. However, I'm only being on this commission for 4 more months, and then I'll be leaving for college. So I don't know. Will we have to re-elect another vice chair? Like if I?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, we can just do it.
Okay.
What is the term for this? When does the current term end, and when would the new term for the vice chair and chair start?
For the chairs or for commissioners?
Chairs.
For chairs, it's a year.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm doing it until when? Is it?
1 year.
No.
1
When
year.
did when I forgot when the month that we started.
Well,
May, right?
I don't remember when we started.
Uh,
I think it was May.
yes, it was
May's
either
not
April or
gonna
May.
go to, like, that's when. Yeah, I think it was May.
Okay, got it. So then this would be the vice chair and chair would be doing it from June until the
No,
fall.
for this year, from January through December.
Because we started later or something, right?
Oh, got it. Okay, that's what I was confused about. Okay, got it. Okay, cool.
Oh, I see. Right, we haven't, right.
Yeah, it hasn't been,
They just do all the commissions every January.
yeah,
Okay, so this would be starting
now?
now.
Starting now, going through this year.
Just to clarify, it's for the year period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Okay.
And actually, so commissioners normally sit for 2 years, but they normally start in January. Do our terms end at the end of 2024 to get us on that cycle? They probably do.
Yeah.
Okay, so all commissioners' terms as commissioners end at the end of this year.
Okay.
And usually if you're willing to do it, you let whoever appointed you know, and they usually reappoint you, but, you know, sometimes new council members come in and they want to do something different, or whatever it may be. If you were the chair and you were the vice chair, then once you left to go to college, we'd elect a different vice chair. Because that's a midterm vacancy.
We had a stalemate
How
here.
much time does it take to be the chair?
I think it really depends on you. Yeah. I think that what I was told initially was that the commitment is like a 6-hour thing. Like if you, God, is it a monthly thing? But essentially you're gonna need to free up like 6 hours of your time per month, I believe. But I think if you're also doing like work plan items, it's different. So, yeah.
You should be, the chair should be involved with Jonathan in making the agenda, for sure. That's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
In terms of chairing the meeting, you're already here.
Yes.
You know, it does mean that it's sort of recommended that chairs try not to make a motion unless they just have to, and they always speak last, you know, and when there's a discussion and things like that, because they're kind of running the meeting too. And sometimes there's work in between. You might, you know, check in with the various committees and see if they're actually meeting. I would say for a commission like this, I would probably say the monthly commitment is maybe a little less than 6 hours, but it can, for being chair, but, because it's really the agenda and maybe checking in with a couple of, you know, would be my guess, but maybe you've had a different experience, I don't know. You know, but it's a responsibility, so there's some stress because of that, you know.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out if I could do it. Because
Sorry. I've chaired one meeting, but I guess maybe I'm interested, but if you would like to do it, you
go
can.
for it. You can do it. It's a natural progression of order. vice chair to chair.
Yeah? So it sounds like we have 3 potential chairs.
No, I'm out. No.
No?
She's stepping down.
Okay. And-
She can do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to that?
Have to do it.
Would you?
Okay, how do you say it again?
I make a motion that.
I make a motion that we vote for a new chair.
You say who are you nominating for chair? That we elect so-and-so as chair.
I nominate Charlie Trinkle as chair.
I'll second.
Wait, are we doing vice chair at the same time, or?
That wasn't the motion, so let's just
Yeah.
do the chair first, and then we can do the vice chair.
Okay, she seconded already.
So you should see if there's any discussion. There probably isn't, but you should at least ask. You're still chairing.
Well, I'm looking at Jonathan because he looked like he was going to say something. Are you? No? Okay, cool. Is there any discussion? We move to voting then?
Member Cho,
Sorry. Yes.
Member Fain,
Yes.
Member Lindsay,
Yes.
Member Oji,
Yes.
Member Trinkle,
Yes.
and Chair Ashwang.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Oh, and thank you. Okay, well, can I make a motion to make Member Fain the vice chair?
I'll second it.
Member Cho,
Yes.
Member Fain,
Yes.
Member Lindsay,
Yes.
Member Oji,
Yes.
Member Trinkle,
Yes.
and Chair Ashwang.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The youth is leading the way.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And then now moving on to future agenda items. Are there any requests? Yes.
Can we create a recommendation memo for the read-along program, like for the funding for the books? Right, because we have to write that for city council?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Are we getting funding for the books from the city council or the library?
From the city council, because I believe the library also receives funding from the city.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the things Paul had mentioned, is that we essentially would be pulling from the same pot regardless.
Yeah. So, yeah, can we do that? Like, we make the proposal?
The work plan to
Yeah,
put it
the-
as an, oh, got it. I hear you, okay.
So you're asking for a specific agenda item, like we had item 16?
Yeah, like how we had it.
A specific agenda item to consider a recommendation for the read-along program?
Yes.
Okay. So, Charlie, you got to keep track of these now.
Wait, am I the chair now?
Well, as soon as the meeting's over, you are.
Hold on. Let's see, what are you going to
That's
say?
next month.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Is it that the next agenda is going to be set by?
Next agenda, you're chair through the end of this meeting, yes.
Okay, and then I'm off the hook. Okay, cool.
I would like to make a...
Yes.
So, one of the things that the City Council had in mind is when they said the RISE Commission shall also seek to develop positive relations through the Commission's regular monthly meetings as a space to facilitate greater respect and understanding between people, offering opportunities for cultural exchanges and education, promote tolerance and mutual respect between all members of the community. They're talking about presentations. And I think we've only had one, so far. They're annoying it's annoying for staff, frankly. They're a bit of a pain. You say, we want a presentation from so-and-so, and they make 35 calls, and then at the end the person says, oh, I can't make it, So with all due apologies, Jonathan, they can be hard to set up. But I think we should try to have more presentations. And I have quite a long list of groups that could, that we could get presentations from, that I just kind of sat down. And so I'm going to read them, but, well, no, that doesn't, no, this shouldn't be discussion. It should be a request for an agenda item. But anyway, I do have a list, and it would do things like, to promote respect and understanding between people and cultural exchange and education for ourselves, but also for the city. All these are posted on YouTube. There are people that watch them. There are council members that watch them. I know this for a fact. So I would just put in a request for more presentations, and to the new chair and vice chair and John, I've got a list. I can email it to you or whatever. I can take a picture and text it to you for some ideas.
I have a question. Presentation, it can also include, because it's social equity, like special needs type things?
Amen, yep.
Okay, and then I'm on the committee, but can I do a presentation?
Yes, we could certainly do that. It wouldn't be an outside speaker, but it would be an inside presentation, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, email.
great.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my request, more presentations, It'd be nice if we could try to get it, one per meeting. They often, you tell them how much time they get. That's how much time they get. And then usually there's questions from the commission afterwards. Might be a 10-minute presentation, a 5-minute for questions, or it might be, 20 minutes and 10, whatever works for the agenda. So, but, we got plenty of time.
Would you like presentations from like student engagement groups? Like,
Heck yeah,
okay.
especially relating to our work, right?
I feel like we should create like guidelines for them to follow to help create a presentation. Because I feel like if I was to introduce this to students, they would kind of not know where to start.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Right now, we're a little bit on the boundary, I don't know, of the Brown Act, because under agenda items, you're really just supposed to suggest agenda items, not discuss them. Because it's not on the agenda as a discussable item. But yes.
Do you have to motion to put it for next week, or is it just going to
No,
be next month?
all we're doing is we're throwing out things that we would like.
Okay.
And then the chair, hopefully involving the vice chair, and John get together to make the agenda.
Oh, they're going to make it. Okay, cool.
When I chair commissions, I always involve the vice chair in a Zoom meeting or whatever, or however you do it to make the agendas together with staff. But they're hearing this, right? And you can also email them or whatever, and remind them, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, there was one thing for the next agenda as the sugar sweetened beverage tax item, to begin discussion on that.
Do you want to, just for information purposes, give people a heads up about what that is?
Sure. I can't go too deep into it, but it's annually the City Council reviews recommendations made by the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission, the Transportation Commission, and then used to be the SEJC, but is now you guys, the RISE Commission, for recommendations of expenditure of the sugar-sweetened beverage tax, which, as the name implies, is a tax placed on sugar-sweetened beverages in the city. And I think we're projected, well, I can't get too deep into it right now, but there's plenty of information on the website.
And so they get recommendations from these commissions on how to spend it, and then the council makes the final decision.
Okay. The only question I had is, were you suggesting, Member Fain, that we put on as a future agenda item, the discussion of guidelines for presentations? Did you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So should I start creating like that, or we're gonna work?
That's always awesome.
Okay. Okay.
When people actually come in with like a suggestion, that just helps so much.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I think I understand the last question you asked. So we're going to do it in the meeting that we'll create guidelines.
I guess I can start creating it on my own, and then we can like work together to fix the draft and make
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. And then the next, oh wait, are there if any further requests for future agenda items? Okay, cool. The next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 at 7 p.m. And this meeting is adjourned.